Let's talk fundraising. And HBCUs need to fundraise.
Yep.
You've done a lot of fundraising in your career. What are some best practices in fundraising from your experiences? And if you were consulting all HBCUs on how to fundraise, what would your suggestions be?
So first off, cultural. Okay. What is the job of a college president? The job of a college president is to fundraise. If somebody listening says, "Oh, my dream is to be a college president. I want to be the president of Howard. I want to be the president of, FAMU, president, whatever." I'm telling you, you better learn how to raise money because that is the number one job of a college president. Okay. All colleges have deans. Okay. So if you're a dean and you're like, someday I want to be a college president, well, those deans better raise money, right? Like, a great college should have a president, should have deans, and over 20 years, we should look at some of those deans then going on to be college presidents someplace else, right? But how you make that jump from dean to college president is by raising money. The dean of Florida State University's College of Music raised $60 million last year. $60 million, okay? Dean Hartline, FSU College of Business, the guy raised over $300 million. The guy's amazing, right? In HBCU culture, this is an overarching statement that I believe to be true. A lot of deans are not fundraising. It's like they got in that position, they earned it from being an outstanding professor, being an outstanding associate dean. They're super smart, they're super well educated, and they're in this dean role, but they don't raise money, right? And across HBCU world, we have to figure that out. And when I say figure that out, we got to go to these deans and say, "Hey, deans, you got to add this tool to your toolbox. And if you don't know how to do it, we need to get you the training you need to get the tools in your toolbox, right? And then we've got to build you up and help you do that." And then some deans may want to retire and move on. But as we get new deans in, they've got to be raising money. So to answer your question, it takes a strategy, right? It takes a strategy. It takes work. It takes intentionality. It takes trackability. It takes relationships. You got to show ROI, man. You got to show ROI.
Yeah.
HBCUs have got to show tight governance. Governance is key. People are not going to give you money if they feel like you're not spending it well. If you're not showing accountability about where is the money going, you can't just take the check and you got to understand that. And here's the other key thing: you got to go where the money is. So if you and I both graduated from, let's pick University of California University, and you're like, "John, let's go there," and we went there and we're going to raise money, we just go to our alums, right? I mean, that's what most universities do. University of Florida went through its big financial campaign. They started with calling 10 families and asked for 25 million each, and they got it. They started with 250 million from 10 families. Okay. There's no HBCUs out there that their alums can provide the money needed. So the uniqueness in HBCUs is we have alums who need to give. You need to give as an alum because it's part of how schools get ranked. So all alums need to give. Even I kid you not, give $5 a year. I don't care. Give as an alum. There's that. But then we got to move over here and we've got to go after people who have funds, who need to learn and be educated, right? So you would be shocked, maybe you wouldn't be shocked, but if we took every HBCU in America and put them on a map, I bet you if we did a 5-mile radius and we just did a big circle and we said, let's study all the power business leaders in this community within 5 miles of every HBCU and went and visited and said, "Has anyone ever talked to you about making a donation?" I bet you the numbers are terrible, terrible, low, 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 low. But worse than that, it's like a relationship, meaning, "Hey, would you come to campus? Would you come guest lecture?" Right? And that's what I keep coming back to. If I said to you, let's go after 500 major corporations and let's ask them to make big, 7-figure gift to FAMU or wherever else, what party do you think they're a member of? Political party. They're probably Republican, right? What skin color are they? Probably white, right? They're probably conservative. You can't hate people to Jesus, right? You want to grow your church and you start telling everybody in your neighborhood they're all going to hell, right? And they're all terrible people. They ain't coming to your church, man. They just shut the church down. That's not how that works, right? But you know what? If you have a great daycare center where people come bring their children and they feel safe there, if you provide, hurricane supplies and stuff like that, great churches are relevant to their communities. People are like, gosh, I didn't go to that church, but I love it because they do things for my community. HBCUs have got to be relevant. They've got to solve the problems. If you have a college of business, you need to be providing great talent and cultivating relationships, right? And so, when you hear me talk about HBCUs, remember, my audience are not black. My audience is white, Republican, and saying, I want you to come in, I want you to donate, I want you to give money, right? And if the Koch brothers foundation wants to give your HBCU a 7-figure donation, and you're like, oh, no, we can't take it from those guys. Why? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, guys? Like, just because you can only take donations with people that look and sound and talk just like you, it doesn't work that way, right? This is education. We need different people with different views. I think you got to inspire people. I think you got to create a sense of urgency, right? Like, this is an important thing to do now, right? And I think matching, where on a personal level, the best fundraising I do. Look, I endowed a scholarship at FAMU. I endowed a scholarship. I have 2 at FAMU, 3 at Bethune-Cookman, and I have 1 at Jackson State. And so FAMU is the easiest one of the FAMU ones. I put in 25 grand. And I go to companies all the time and look, I put in 25 grand. I'm just a regular guy. I'm just asking you to match me. I want you and your company's big, huge company. I'm a little guy. Just match me. I put in 25 grand. Put 25 grand in too. Yeah. I have endowed scholarship. You endow scholarship. And that works. It's para pursue. People see me doing it and they know I'm in, and unless God takes me away, I'm going to be there, and they come in and partner with me, right? So it's not just like, hey, let's go get this company to give this donation to Bethune-Cookman and buy. We need to get a donation, and then we need to get them to be on our board or help sponsor a guest lecture series and we often don't accentuate the complementary stuff. Like, give you an example, Bethune-Cookman is a Christian university. Why don't we have T.D. Jakes come give a guest sermon? Why don't we have Andy Stanley? Why don't we have I'm trying to think of his name, but another great Rick Warren, right? Why don't we have the best known Christian speakers in America come give sermons there on the campus, right? Doesn't matter what color they are. It's a Christian connectivity, right? Christian community connectivity. And let's bring people together, right? My heart's desire would be to see every major political debate be held on HBCU campus. That's what I want. That's what I want. I wish more HBCUs would play half their games, football games, against SWAC or the MEAC, and the other half, I wish they were playing more and more. I wish FAMU would play Stanford and Princeton and Yale, and because I want that alumni. By the way, if you're a Harvard alum, stop giving endowment money. There's no reason anyone should give 1 nickel to Harvard's endowment. And my dad went to Harvard. I'm not trying to disrespect Harvard, but they don't need any more money. Stop it. Stop giving money to that. Give it someplace that is life-changing, right?
Yeah.
But we have to get more people involved in that process. And people are going to have to get a little bit uncomfortable. They're going to have to start thinking in a bigger mindset. But people are not going to find Fisk. They're not going to find North Carolina AT and go, oh, yeah, let me just write them a check. They're going to be found and get recruited in and get involved in the process, be welcomed to campus, welcome to be part of it, and get involved. I love Jackson State. I think there's so much good and so much potential there. I've got family in Jackson. And when I was visiting Jackson, I was talking to some family about it, and they were talking about how it was the murder capital of America, all these terrible stats. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm just not a guy that wants to sit here and do nothing and let terrible things happen. So I know real estate. So my partner and I endowed the first real estate scholarship at Jackson State University. My next step is to try to find other real estate companies in Jackson to match me and invest there and guest lecture and mentor the students, right? But I want you to hear me say this. I don't encounter racism. When I was a kid, I heard racist things by people all the time. I saw racism. I don't encounter racism, but what I do encounter regularly is elitism. Elitism and racism are roommates, right? And when I've been places and I've said that, family kids are the most impressive, there's some UF grads have been angry at me for saying that because UF is the best. UF is number one. They'll say that, and you're like, man, come on, right? Come on. It's a big state. We've got a lot of great schools, man. There's enough on the podium for there to be a couple number ones, right? Or number ones for different reasons. You'll be number one in everything, okay? Like, and so the elitism, like looking down on somebody. There's an old mainstream attorney in Orlando, and I went and saw him about Family College of Law, and I said, I need your help. He says, John, I only recruit from Florida State. I said, well, so you'll drive 4 hours and 2 hours. You won't go 2 blocks. Oh, well, I had a guy say to me, that Family College of Law, it's broken. When you fix it, I'll help you. You know what I told him? I said, go to hell. I said, go to hell. When it's fixed, I don't need you.
Exactly.
What? I had a white Democrat start yelling at me about some of this stuff, and I looked at him and I said, how much money are you giving Family College of Law? He's an attorney downtown. How much money are you giving? Zero? Is zero? I have a scholarship, Family College of Law. I'm a white conservative Republican, and you don't. And you're trying to lecture me? I'm like, I'll tell you what, you match me financially, and I'll buy you lunch, and we'll talk, and I'll hear everything you say. But until you write a check, you got no voice. I'll put you on mute. Yeah. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I know that Christ loves me because Christ chose to sacrifice for me, right? My children and my wife know that I love them because they know I sacrifice for them. That's how someone somebody loves somebody. It's what they choose to sacrifice for. So people say they love something until you ask them to write a check, and then it turns out they like it, right? They like it. They don't love it. If you really love something, you sacrifice for it, right? I'm looking for people and companies that are like, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to go to vacation to Europe this summer. Maybe I'm just going to not go on vacation. Instead, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to endow scholarship at an HBCU. Maybe I'm not going to buy a new car this year. I'm going to sacrifice that. I'm going to help out here. Maybe I'm not going to be on full retirement because I'm going to take some time and I'm going to go volunteer and guest lecture. And by the way, when you start helping out HBCUs, they have problems. You're going to walk in there and go, well, this doesn't work right. Well, no kidding, it's not working right? All of academia has issues. I have 11 scholarships at 7 universities, and so 4 at PWIs and 3 are HBCUs. They're all got problems, man. All of them got problems. And you said, what's the worst one? It's not one of the HBCUs. It's a state university they have so many problems. Universities are hard to work with. They're challenging. Students are hard to work with. They're kids. So it's no simple thing like you're going to do one thing and it's fixed. You're going to have to work and work and work and work and work. But that's the beauty of life when you invest in things and you see something great come out of it. I had breakfast in Washington, D.C. with Thomas Bolin. I met Thomas Bolin when he was 18 years old and was a freshman at FAMU. He is a real estate executive in Washington, D.C. He's doing a great job. And when I meet with him now, you know what I do? I ask for his advice. He was a kid, and I was his mentor. And now he mentors me. Listen, my little company, my vice president, the person that's ramping this whole thing up, heir to the throne, she's a family bride. Don't mess with her. She's the real deal, And I'm telling you, like, you invest in these people because it's the right thing to do, but it is so rewarding and so impactful, and it's a different nature. And one more thing on all this is Deion Sanders just learned this. People say to me, I don't know how you work with all these colleges. They're all liberal Marxist institutions trying to, they say that. And I'm like, man, I'm the most conservative, devout capitalist you're ever going to meet. I've been guest lecturing for over 20 years. I've never had that. I lecture to professors ask me all the time. I come, it's like, it's great. Kids, I don't know what you're talking about, like crazy crap. But I'll tell you this. If you want to go talk to a college and you want to start talking about your faith and your Christianity, you need to think about that. If you're at a Christian college, say anything you want. If you're at a state university, you got to think about that a little bit because, sometimes people get uncomfortable and you be thoughtful. Unless it's an HBCU. Mm-hmm. HBCU, you're not going to have a problem talking about your faith. When Deion Sanders was at Jackson State and he would talk about faith, no one questioned it. He went to Colorado and people got mad at him. So if you're a white evangelical and you're like, I love talking about the Lord, well, then go volunteer in HBCU, and it's going to be the best time you ever had.
Yeah.
I'm just telling. What is the argument against what I just said? What is the argument against that? I don't get it. Right. So to me, it's like it's HBCUs are the land of milk and honey. Like this world that I believe can be so critical to solving the problems in our nation. That's how I feel, right? I'm not saying it's everything. We have lots more, but I can go through issue of things that HBCUs can do. They provide such a network. The only thing that's comparable to them is the military academies. Like if you meet a guy from the Naval Academy, you meet a guy from West Point, they tease each other. They have a lot of funny jokes back and forth. But if you try to pick a fight with the Navy guy, that West Point guy is going to punch you in the face, man. They're going to unite quick. You can't talk to Oklahoma guy and tell him you're helping out Texas and that he's going to be happy with you. But if you're based in Seattle and you endow a scholarship at Fisk and a Howard University grad is interviewing with you in El Paso, they're more likely to apply and interview come in your company because they see what you're doing in Seattle for Fisk. That's a real thing.
Absolutely.
If you choose to endow a scholarship at one HBCU, grads from the other 100 HBCUs will take notice. That is not. Tell me where else that's true. There's only 4, military academies, right? I don't know what are we talking about, guys? Like, so there's 101 HBCUs. So the network is so much better. Yeah. Sometimes people say to me, why do we still need HBCUs? And I'm like, well, do we still need BYU? Right? If you're a Mormon and you live in Miami and you grew up your whole life not many other Mormon kids, and then you go to BYU and you're around all Mormon kids and it's just poured into you, and then you graduate and then you move, to Boston or something like that. That's never going to leave you. That's such a core part of you. The same thing with the military academies. A lot of colleges have ROTC. FAMU has ROTC. But you know what? If you're a military kid and high school, some kids were into that, but they really weren't. You just went, and then you go to a military academy and it's poured into you. That defines you, right? I had a friend of mine. He came to my office and he said, man, Crossman, you push this HBCU. He goes, isn't the real problem in Black America lack of fathers in homes? I said, okay, all right, I'll cede that to you. If you believe that's one problem, then don't you think a solution would be for that young Black kid to go to all Black college and then have Black male role models pouring into them? And he looked at me and went, oh my gosh, you're right. Exactly. If you think that's the biggest problem, then you just made my point and you should be backing Black colleges, if that's what you believe. Right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. You just made my point. So the last other big picture thing I'll tell you is that the cancel culture and the wokeness stuff, it's hurt in a lot of ways because it's limited conversation, and we need healthier conversation. And what I mean by that is, I mean true conversation, like the exchange we had on your Instagram page. That was some good conversation, right? Doesn't necessarily agree, but it was good, healthy interchange. And we need to have places healthy interchange. And if we make it so people are so uncomfortable to ask, if they don't feel like, why are HBCUs important? Like, they need to be able to ask that question. Like, well, tell me about institutional racism. Like, they need to be able to ask it. The thing about a lot of people who are anti-woke, they're not anti-Black, they're anti-Marxist, right? Remember we're talking at the beginning about Christian conservative Republican. Well, the people that see wokeism, they're not relating it to race. They're relating it to ideology. They see it as Marxist. They see it as a threat, not race, but to, socialism, to capitalism, right? And if somebody starts saying something that's a threat to capitalism, I'm going to fight you on that, because I think capitalism crushes racism. And capitalism is the key to ending racism in America. So I'm a capitalist guy. So if someone's saying that it's really Marxist, so I can see how that can be, right? So that's why someone who's anti-woke is not necessarily anti-HBCU, right? That makes sense? So it's complicated. And so until we get these conversations going, we hope to figure that out.